This is Chuck Schaefer of Customer.tv, and today I'm joined by Lior Arusi, CEO of Strativity. Lior is an expert on the topic of customer experience management. The purpose of this conversation is to better understand customer experience management strategy, trending, and supporting technologies. Lior, let me start off by asking about customer experience strategy and trending. Customer experience continues to be an increasingly evaluated business objective by business leaders. You've been advocating this customer strategy for nearly as long as it's been discussed. Why is it now reaching a peak in terms of interest and adoption? And where do you think we are in terms of crossing the chasm to mainstream adoption?
So there are really three streams, I believe, that are affecting the renaissance, if you may, or the growth in understanding of the importance of customer experience. On one side, let's start on a basic level. This economy has been touching all of us for a good 4 years. The message to CEOs is quite simple. There are no new customers to go and deceive, and you've got to focus on your core. So the message of focusing on the core, a lot of organizations refocus their efforts. They cannot afford lavish sales tactics. They have to focus on the core, and that is one driver that is affecting customer experience. The second one is social media. Social media have given a huge megaphone to every customer. Every customer is basically a segment of one. Every customer is no longer statistically insignificant, and as a result of it, we cannot afford disappointing that single customer, and that created a heightened understanding as to why we need to do this, and we need to do this now. The burning platform is definitely driven by that. And the third one is relentless efforts. I mean, I've started this journey in July 2000 when I started to advocate customer experience management. The first white paper ever published by Data Monitor was briefed by me, and it's 13 years of hammering and hammering and hammering until organizations are starting to get it. So between those three things, there are efforts, there are technology changes, and there are economical changes that are altogether driving it.
CRM software and other enterprise technology vendors are keenly aware of business leaders' pursuit of customer experience objectives, and they're proposing their existing software solutions, modified CRM software, and sometimes entirely new CX software suites in order to enable customer experience strategies. How important is technology in automating and enabling customer experience strategy?
So I'm going to use an analogy that anyone who ever lived in a small neighborhood will relate to. Before you went to the big supermarkets, you had a local market in your neighborhood, and you'll go there, and the seller will know you, and when they'll get the pickles that you like, he'll remember to tell you about that, and so on and so forth. And that worked really well for a small community market, small community store, and that was all about creating the relationships, remembering the customers, maybe extending a little bit of credit. All of these things could have been managed by a human being when the pool of customers were very small. When the pool of customers is now expanding, the needs of customers to be recognized, to get a small credit, all these type of things have not changed. But in order to manage it on a large scale, of millions of customer scale, that's where tools comes in. And I would lump all technologies right now as a form of tools. Just as the seller could have called you and tell you, hey, I've got the newest bread that you like, there is a call center today. They could have sent a letter, now there is an email. But these are all communication tools. Technologies are basically enablers for those. But the biggest issue is that technology providers have often blurred the line between being a tool and being the end game.
For business leaders looking to transition from a company-centric operation to a customer-centric business model and adopt a customer experience management business strategy, how do you recommend they get started in their journey?
I think the first recommendation I'll make to all of them is recognize that you need to transform. Customer centricity is not incremental, it's transformational. You need to understand that you have operated under certain guidelines, under certain processes. And let's take it even all the way to Winslow Frederick Taylor, who started scientific management, and in his book wrote very clearly, in scientific management, we do not ask for the initiative of man. We do not want them to change. We do not want them to deviate one thing from the process. Employees were perceived as cogs in a big machine, and if they move one right or one left, that's going to create havoc. So it was contrarian to everything that we've been taught to do for many, many years. Start to put together a step-by-step environment that will cover culture, cover processes, cover your executive readiness. All of these tracks has to be run in parallel with a very simple question at the end. At the end of the day, did you excite your customer? Did you create something exceptional, or were you just like everyone else? Are you creating an okay experience, or are you creating an experience that they'll remember for 10 years? Because if they'll remember it for 10 seconds, your loyalty will be equivalent. If they remember it for 10 years, you now created equity towards future purchases.
Lior, performance metrics are important in setting goals, measuring progress, and knowing when to make adjustments or implement course corrections. But the key to metrics is to make sure you're measuring the right factors. Many companies use customer metrics such as customer or wallet share or customer lifetime value. But these metrics are company-oriented and show little to no value from the customer's perspective. Customers don't care what their customer lifetime value is to a company. For companies implementing customer experience and whom truly want to become customer-centric, what performance metrics do you recommend they measure?
So I think that first there is a philosophical discussion that we need to have a little bit. Most of the performance measurements and customers who are being engaged in providing the input for that are geared toward basically providing a big thank you letter to companies. Tell me how great I am. Please, you forgot to send a thank you letter, and I want to make sure that you are reflecting how great I am. Versus the other school of thought that says, I want to improve. I don't want to stay stagnant. So there is a line of questioning and all the measurements associated with them that are all geared toward, please tell me how great I am versus how can I improve the relation. So we've been advocating the economics of customer experience, what we call the 5 Ps, for many, many years. Do we see a strong preference where they will come to us and not to someone else? Are they willing to pay us a premium price? Premium price is a huge testimonial by customers. Yes, it's worth the money. Portion of budget, how much are you spending with me versus how much you spend with the competition. Actual promotion to others, not intention to promote. So how many referrals do I actually get versus how many you're telling me you might be giving me. And relationship length, the permanence of the relationship. But if I'll give you one thing that absolutely tells the story, it's premium price. If you're able to command a premium price, you know you're in, you know they appreciate it, and you know they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. Anything under that is just perceptions.
Lior, for my last question, let me ask you a little bit about risk. Like any business strategy, CX has its risks and challenges. What are the most common pitfalls when deploying a CX strategy, and how do you recommend mitigating those pitfalls?
I'll give you the first risk is giving it to mid-level people and having executives disappear and not own that. Because if you do not understand that customer experience is really about the core value proposition of your organization and its relevance and validity in the marketplace, you miss the whole thing. If you think it's a bunch of processes that we need to fix underneath and CEOs are finding themselves removed from those efforts and from the tough decision that needs to be made, that is a huge risk. Risk number 2, you're going to conduct a transformation, which means not every executive in your pool is going to make the grade. You need to have an honest assessment of, do you have the best soldiers who are following those values and are willing to go and do that. Run your numbers, make changes that supports the financials. Don't run this program without having the financials to support it. These are all common things, but I would say because there's also a cultural component to it, and because for years we've hired people based on criteria of product centricity and not customer centricity, some of your people will not make the grade.
Very good points. And with that comment, I think we're at a good break point to conclude our conversation. This is Chuck Schaefer, and today I've been joined by Lior Arusi, CEO of Strativity. Lior, I think your comments and insight are certainly helpful to any business leader considering a CX business strategy. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.